We are counting down the 10 worst disasters and deaths ever recorded on Mount Everest. From ethical crises that shocked the world to avalanches and mass casualties that changed climbing forever, each tragedy on this list exposes a different danger lurking on the world's highest peak. But which Everest disaster stands as the most devastating of all time? Let us begin the countdown with number 10. On May 15, 2006, British climber David Sharp lay alone in the thin air of Green Boots Cave at nearly 27,900 feet. He was conscious but unable to move, gripped by frostbite and oxygen starvation. Over 40 climbers passed him that morning. Some offered brief help. Most continued toward the summit or their own survival. Radio calls for assistance went unanswered. Sharp's body remained a landmark for years, a silent reminder of the choices made that day. Sir Edmund Hillary condemned the episode as a disgrace to mountaineering, igniting a global debate about the value of a human life above the death zone. Babu Chiri Sherpa was known for feats that seemed almost impossible, including 10 Everest summits, the fastest descent ever recorded, and a night spent 21 hours on the summit without bottled oxygen. Born in Khumbu, he started as a porter at 13 and used his climbing earnings to build schools for his village. On April 29, 2001, while photographing the sunrise near Camp 2, Babu Chiri slipped into a hidden crevasse. His death sent shockwaves through the mountaineering world. Even for someone with his experience, Everest's hazards proved absolute. The mountain claimed a legend, reminding all that skill alone cannot guarantee survival above the clouds. On April 5, 1970, the Khumbu Icefall lived up to its deadly reputation. A Japanese skiing expedition was relying on a team of Sherpa porters to haul loads through this shifting maze of glacial blocks. Without warning, a towering Serac collapsed, burying 6 Sherpas beneath tons of ice. The glacier's constant movement makes rescue nearly impossible. None of the bodies were ever recovered. For Sherpas, the Icefall is a daily workplace, not just a route to adventure. Every creak and groan of the glacier signals risk. It is a reminder that, on Everest, the greatest dangers often fall hardest on those supporting others' dreams. September 9, 1974. Gerard de Vouassou and his French Alpine Club team advanced up Everest's West Ridge direct, terrain so steep and unpredictable that only a handful have ever dared it. Heavy monsoon snow had piled up for days, soaking the slopes above their camp at 6,600 meters. That evening, a slab avalanche thundered down without warning, sweeping de Vouassou and 5 Sherpas into the void. No bodies were ever recovered. This disaster demanded more than technical skill, and it punished any miscalculation with instant, total loss. It underscored how ambition on Everest's lesser-traveled routes often means gambling with forces that cannot be controlled, no matter the climber's experience or resolve. On June 7, 1922, the British Everest expedition set out from their camp on the North Col, roped together across a slope heavy with fresh snow. George Mallory led the team, accompanied by Geoffrey Bruce and George Finch, alongside a group of Sherpa porters carrying loads for the push higher up the mountain. By mid-morning, the snowfield gave way beneath them. An avalanche swept 9 men down the face. 7 Sherpas were buried and lost. Their bodies were carried nearly 300 feet before vanishing beneath the snow. The tragedy was the first time Everest had claimed lives. Mallory, haunted by guilt, recorded in his diary the weight of responsibility, questioning the cost of ambition when others bore the risk. The loss echoed through the Royal Geographical Society's records, setting a somber precedent. From the very beginning, Sherpa labor carried the greatest dangers. This disaster forced early climbers to confront the moral boundaries of exploration, a reckoning that would echo for decades on Everest's slopes. May 19, 2012 stands as one of Everest's most harrowing days. More than 200 climbers set out for the summit, all squeezed into a narrow window of good weather. By midnight, headlamps snaked up the southeast ridge, but progress stalled above 8,000 meters. Traffic jams formed between the balcony and the south summit, forcing climbers to wait for hours in the death zone, burning precious oxygen and energy. As the day wore on, delays cascaded into disaster. 6 climbers died in separate incidents, some from hypoxia and others from sheer exhaustion. Among them was Shreya Shah Chlorphine, who reached the summit late and collapsed just 300 feet from Camp 4, unable to go any farther. The victims included both experienced mountaineers and those with little high-altitude background. There was no storm and no avalanche, just an unforgiving queue where every minute lost became a life at risk. The events of that day exposed how crowding and commercial pressures can turn Everest's upper slopes into a gauntlet with deadly consequences. April 18, 2014, began like any other day for the Sherpa guides working the Khumbu Icefall. Before sunrise, 25 men threaded their way through a maze of unstable ice, fixing ropes and ladders for the commercial climbing season. At 6:58 in the morning, a massive Serac, an ice block weighing millions of pounds, broke loose from the western spur, crashing down without warning. 16 Sherpas died instantly, most buried beyond recovery. The disaster sent shockwaves through the climbing community, not just for the scale of loss, but for what it revealed. Sherpas, the backbone of every Everest expedition, face risks far beyond those of their foreign clients. In the aftermath, grief turned to anger. Sherpa guides halted all work, demanding better insurance, higher compensation for families, and respect for their labor. Union statements denounced the government's meager initial support, just $400 per family, forcing officials to raise the payout. The entire 2014 season was canceled, leaving families without income and exposing a system that profits from Sherpa risk while offering little protection in return. May 10, 1996. Two commercial expeditions, adventure consultants led by Rob Hall and Mountain Madness led by Scott Fisher, set out from the South Col in the dark, aiming to reach the summit before the afternoon winds. Dozens of clients and guides pushed past the 8,000-meter mark, already behind schedule. The agreed 2 p.m. turnaround time came and went as climbers pressed upward, some ignoring warning signs in their radios in the sky. By late afternoon, the weather turned. A sudden blizzard swept the upper slopes, dropping visibility to near zero and sending the wind chill to minus 40 degrees Celsius. Radio calls from stranded climbers crackled with urgency, but confusion and battery failures left many teams isolated. Rob Hall stayed with his exhausted client Doug Hansen near the south summit, refusing to abandon him. Fisher, already weakened by illness, collapsed below the balcony. 8 climbers died in the storm, including Hall and Fisher, both considered among the world's best guides. Dr. Beck Weathers, left for dead in the snow, staggered back to camp with severe frostbite, defying all odds. By season's end, 12 climbers had lost their lives. The disaster drew global attention, not just for the death toll, but for the questions it raised about decision-making, the limits of commercial guiding, and the risks of Everest's unpredictable weather. May 2019 brought a different kind of disaster to Everest's upper slopes. This disaster was created by human policy, not by weather or avalanche. Nepal's government issued a record 381 climbing permits, packing the death zone with more than 200 climbers during a single summit window. The world watched as a viral photo captured a line of bodies snaking up toward the peak, each person waiting hours in the thin air above 8,200 meters. Delays lasted from 4 to 8 hours as climbers burned through their oxygen reserves, unable to descend or to advance. 9 confirmed deaths followed within days, most from exhaustion, altitude sickness, and hypoxia. GPS logs and summit time records show the catastrophic effect of congestion. Some climbers waited so long that their bodies simply shut down before they could escape the queue. At that altitude, rescue was impossible. Critics blamed unchecked permitting and commercial expeditions eager to cash in. The iconic image of the summit traffic jam became proof of a system stretched past its limits, where economic incentives outweighed safety, and the world's highest peak turned deadly, not by nature, but by choices made on paper far below. April 25, 2015 began with blue skies at Everest Base Camp. At 11:56 in the morning, the ground shook with a force no climber could have prepared for. A magnitude 7.8 earthquake struck Nepal, and its epicenter was more than 130 miles away. Seismographs and GPS trackers recorded the tremors as a massive Serac broke loose from the slopes of Pumori. Within seconds, a thunderous white wall of snow and ice swept through camp, flattening tents and scattering climbers and guides. GoPro footage captured the avalanche as it swallowed everything in its path, turning the world to blinding white. More than 22 people died instantly, and hundreds more were injured. Some were trapped beneath debris or isolated by aftershocks. The base camp became a field hospital, with survivors improvising splints from trekking poles and rationing painkillers as helicopters ferried the wounded to safety. The entire climbing season was canceled. Across Nepal, nearly 9,000 lives were lost. On Everest, the mountain's power erased all illusions of control, reminding climbers and the world that nature alone decides the terms. Across all 10 tragedies, one pattern dominates. Everest punishes every weakness, physical, ethical, or systemic. No technology or ambition erases the mountain's risks. Today, as crowds and climate strain its slopes, Everest remains a test not just of skill, but of respect for nature's unforgiving power.